Welcome to the Southern Mountain Kitchen. Today we're going to make chicken stuffed with ham and provolone with oven roasted potatoes. Okay, so we're going to start out with the potatoes first just to get these going, so that way when we get ready for the chicken it takes less time to cook it. It will go into the oven after the potatoes are done. So as you can see, I have 6 medium potatoes here, and we're going to wash and peel these off screen and then bring them back to cut them up, so that way we'll be ready to roll. But other than this, you just need some seasoning and some olive oil. So I've already washed my potatoes and I'm drying them off to get as much moisture off the outside as possible. And then I'm going to cut these up. It doesn't really matter if you make perfect cubes or whatever with these. You just want to cut these down to a size that you want them to be. I'm kind of going for a medium size cut on this. It's all up to you how large you want them to be when they're done, but they all need to be cut up and put into the bowl before we actually do anything else to them. So at this point you probably want to preheat your oven to 425 degrees, because these are going to be in there for at least 35 to 40 minutes to make sure that they cook thoroughly and that they are definitely cooked through by the time you bring them out. Now mind you, you can always test them ahead of time, see if you can put a fork into them and get it inside there and see how hard it is, how resistant it is, but otherwise we're going to leave them in that oven for at least 35 to 40 minutes. So once these potatoes are all cut up, we are going to season them. So we have several things here that we are going to season with. So as we get going on this, I will tell you them. So we're doing a half a teaspoon of salt, a half teaspoon of pepper, 3/4 of a teaspoon of garlic powder, a half a teaspoon of paprika. Then we're going to have 1/3 of a teaspoon of parsley, 1/3 of a teaspoon of Italian seasoning, and 1/3 of a teaspoon of rosemary. And we're going to sprinkle this over top and just make sure that all of this gets kind of around the bowl, because we're going to mix it up anyway with some olive oil, and it's going to distribute in the end anyway. But now we're going to actually drizzle about 2 tablespoons of oil over top of this, and then we're going to mix it up. So that way, like I said, the seasoning is going to get through all the potatoes this way, no matter how you put it in there. And we're just going to mix it until it looks like all the potatoes actually have seasoning on them. So this should only take like maybe 30 seconds or so, flipping them around till you get them really coated. Then you're going to need a pan that you're going to put in the oven to put these on. I suggest lining it with some aluminum foil just to make sure the stuff doesn't make a mess. And you can spray it with some nonstick cooking spray. And once that's done, you go ahead and put these on top of that pan and get them ready for the oven. And as I said before, these are going to be like 425 degrees for about, I don't know, I would give them 35 to 40 minutes just to make sure. I left mine in for 40 because I like to have that edge on it and that crispiness. So that's perfectly good. If you want to go for a little longer, that's up to you. Now once these are in the oven, we'll start working on the chicken, and then when the chicken goes in, it'll be cooking at the same time the potatoes are. So go ahead and make sure the potatoes are distributed, not laying over top of each other, because we do want them to cook evenly. But about halfway through the time they're cooking, we probably want to go in and move them around a little bit to, 1, make sure they're not sticking, and 2, flip them over so they'll brown on the other side. Then this is everything we have here for our chicken, and we have 4 chicken breasts. Then we have some provolone cheese, we have some ham, which is just deli ham, some seasoning, some butter, some breadcrumbs, which I have Italian seasoning in my breadcrumbs, just a few other things. And this is what we're going to make our chicken with. So go ahead and find some kind of container you want to put this in to go into the oven. I'm using just a glass dish, spraying with nonstick cooking spray because we don't want it to set up shop. And then I'm going to cut all the fat off of my chicken, and then I'm going to make a slit right down through the top, but not cutting all the way through, because we just want to pull this apart and leave a cavity in there so we can actually insert the cheese and the ham later. So go ahead and work your way through all 4 of these, and that way we will get them set up and ready to roll. Now the good thing about this is once you get these cut and ready to go, we're going to get to a point where we can work with this stuff without worrying about cross-contamination, because everything we're going to need is going to be on the counter, and we're going to use everything we have. So that way you don't have to worry about running back and forth, touching this and that, and actually distributing germs throughout the kitchen. So once these are done like this, we're going to get ready to put them into the pan that they're going to cook in. So go ahead and distribute them however you have to make them fit. You know what? I err on the side of it's better for a smaller pan to put these in, just so they don't move all over the place on you. And then after this, I'm going to make sure everything's on my counter and my hands are washed, so that way I haven't contaminated anything, but I'm ready to roll. So as you can see, this is here, it's ready to go. And I'm going to drizzle a little bit of olive oil on top of these before I touch the chicken, before I get stuff on my hands again. and then just go ahead and spread that olive oil all over it. And that way we're going to make sure that it's really coated, because that's going to help it cook and give a really good edge to it when it cooks in the oven, because it'll kind of be a little crispiness on the outside. And then after this, we're taking 1 piece of provolone cheese and 2 slices of ham, and we're going to roll them together. And then afterwards, we're going to stick them into the opening of one of the chicken breasts. And once it's in there, it's going to stay in. And what's really good is when the cheese starts to melt, it's really going to sink into being in place into the chicken breast. So go ahead and do this for each one of these. Now, as we work our way through this and get these in, we're going to add some other things to the top of this, especially some seasoning. So we just want to make sure that we get all of these tucked in the right way and that they are staying inside of the chicken breast before we do anything else. So as you can see, there's not really much going in here as far as the cheese and ham are concerned, but they give such a great flavor to this, and that's something really amazing to have. Now, once they're all tucked in really well, we're going to go ahead and add more things to the top of this. And the first thing we're going to do is add 1 tablespoon of butter on top of each one of these. Butter's just going to give it some flavor, but it also, again, will help it cook a little bit, because you're basically just adding some fat to it. And then after this, we're going to add some seasoning. So we have a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, a 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper, and a 1/2 teaspoon of Creole seasoning. Then after that, we're going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder and a 1/2 teaspoon of paprika. So distribute it evenly across the top of these, because we really want to make sure that each one of them gets a decent amount of the seasoning on top. Now, if you don't like a lot of seasoning, you can dial this back. It's really kind of per taste, however you want to do this, but just distribute it evenly. And once we get all that seasoning across the top of here, we're going to add into this a little bit of chicken broth. Now, I was talking about not cross-contaminating. Before anybody says anything, no, I'm not, because the only thing that's left in this container is basically about 1/4 of a cup, and that's all I'm using. And then this container is going to the garbage. So just add a little bit into the corners of the sides just to make sure there's some in the bottom of there. And then after this, we're going to add on top of this some breadcrumbs, which are Italian style. They have that seasoning in them, and we're just going to sprinkle it over top of each one of the breasts until we get maybe 2 tablespoons on top of each one, because we're kind of giving it a little edge on the top of it, and just work our way around it. And then you're going to just keep going until you get them all completely covered. And once they are covered, you're pretty much at the point of putting this in the oven, and the oven's already hot because you already have the stuff in there baking for the potatoes. So you just need to leave this in for about 25-30 minutes and it's cooked, and this is what it looks like when it's done, and I think you just might like this. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe. And if you get a chance, check out the Southern Mountain Kitchen website, where you can get a free recipe, check out the cookbooks available from the Southern Mountain Kitchen, and if you'd like to, you could order a cookbook at a discounted price, cheaper than Amazon, with shipping that is also cheaper than Amazon. So if you get a chance, check it out, and I hope you have a great day.